The Vancouver Canucks are a broken hockey club, got throttled 6-2 in Edmonton in what was supposed to be another one of their bounce-back games. No heart, no spirit, and nowhere close to good enough. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside our Rink Wide Vancouver studios on this, the nights all run together. Another night where the Vancouver Canucks lose. How about that? 6-2 the final score in Edmonton. We said off the top this was supposed to be a bounce-back game. How many of those have there been here of late? And unfortunately, they all start to look and feel the same. It is a 6-2 loss. That much we know. Irf, there's a lot to get to, and we're going to do that here on Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you open an account. The YouTube live chat is hopping already, and people are angry, which I suppose is good that there's still some feeling, because a lot of people, I think, are numb now to all of this as well. But if you have some thoughts that you want to pass along and you want to make sure that they get read here on Rink Wide, hit us up with a super chat. Our charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. It is Jeff and Irf.
Yes.
Winnipeg Jets jumped out to a 3-0 first period lead.
Yep.
Last week. Supposed to be a bounce-back game against the Los Angeles Kings, who skated circles around the Canucks and jumped out to a 3-0 lead. And how about this one? For the third time in 5 games, the Canucks down 3-0 in the first period. They were done, as you like to say. This one was
OVAH early.
Yeah, and OV is coming in here on Saturday with the league-leading Washington Capitals. And look, for all the build-up and the hype and the smoke around this thing, the only smoke was that the Canucks got smoked. Leon Draisaitl going to town. Who needs Connor McDavid when you have
They don't.
Leon Draisaitl, his 35th goal of the season. He's got more than twice as many goals as any member of the Vancouver Canucks. Got to 5-0. It was a laugher. It was a laugher for the Oilers. It was no joke for the Vancouver Canucks. Rick Tocchet talked about how disappointed he was in his hockey club after letting the lead get away against Buffalo the other night. We'll bring you the coach's comments a little later on here on Rink Wide. But it's going from bad to worse here in a hurry.
You and I have sat here and done a lot of these shows this season. Mm-hmm. We've sat here on too many nights where the bounce-back game from their worst loss of the season was also a terrible game from this hockey team. And therein lies the problem with the Vancouver Canucks. They're just not a good enough hockey team. And I think that everyone got lost in what they were. This core group, there's a lot of people in the chat saying, fire the coach, this, that, and the other. This core group is on its third coach right now. Rick Tocchet is a very good NHL head coach. If whatever his future is going to hold, whatever. But firing the coach, it's not going to work, and it's not going to just work and change things magically. Trading JT Miller or trading Elias Pettersson, trading one of these players, when a return of what you're going to get right now isn't going to give you anything much either. So this problem is close to getting to a point, Jeff, where you really have to look at it from an organizational point of view and say, how much do you need to tear down before you can start to build up again?
Well, bring in the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
Look, they're dying a slow death here. This is 2 wins in 8 hockey games. They can't score. Now they can't defend on a lot of nights, although I guess the frustrating part for the people that still do care, that give a damn, and hockey club doesn't, but there are fans out there. Irf, the first period against these same Oilers with Connor McDavid on Saturday, as good as we've seen the Vancouver Canucks look in a long time, 16 shots, they had the 3-0 lead, and they were able to get that one across the finish line with the fireworks at the end. Yeah, we know what happened against Buffalo the other night. That was terrible in the third period. But look, 20 seconds into this hockey game, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins with a grade A, glorious look, didn't score, but if you thought that the Canucks were going to be ready and all the build-up that we talked about, and somehow 20 seconds in, the Nuge is behind the defense, and Thatcher Demco made one of his few saves on this night, and he is becoming part of this storyline as well. I mean, we can talk about core pieces He is supposed to be one of them, and it's just not happening for him. And whether it ever happens again for him, I think that is starting to become more and more of a question. The goaltending wasn't good enough. The guys in front of him weren't good enough. And just top to bottom, this organization, it stinks right now. Like something's rotten with the Vancouver Canucks.
Well, it's
and
just it.
It just feels now like something has to happen, even if it's for the sake of happening. Like this can't continue to rot on the vine the way that it is, and it's not getting any better. They have 1 win in 5, and 3 of those 4 losses have been absolute embarrassments against conference opponents, rivals, build up the games, whatever, sleepy game against the city. Like, it doesn't matter how we frame these games. The constant is that the Vancouver Canucks aren't good enough.
That's just it. And you and I have sat here and talked about it. We identity of this team, culture of this team, these words that are used to describe teams and whatever. The Canucks do not have it. They don't. Don't get lost in that 1 win against the Edmonton Oilers. Sure, it was a great performance, but you get smoked by the Winnipeg Jets a week before. You get smoked by the LA Kings. You lose at home while taking a lead to the third period against one of the worst teams in hockey. Everything that happens on Saturday night with all the hoopla, you lose at home. Then you have an emotional game where you're supposed to get up for again. Your coach says he's disappointed in you, and then you flatline in this one in Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear his comments, and we'll do our best to bring them to you.
What does he say?
I don't know. I mean, he's run out of things to say, so I am curious to see where it goes from here. But you are loyal and trusty Rink-Wide listeners and viewers. You've got lots to say. Nar in the chat says, remember how nice it was having a good defense last season? R.I.P. Jordy says, no coach can fix this. Tocchet wasn't his favorite choice, but there's nothing he can do with a roster of players who don't care about playing competent professional hockey. Broke Shinobi, when the core group is on their third coach and the results don't change, it's on the core, not the coach, which is pretty much what you just mentioned a moment ago. And Gord McDowell says the only thing Tocchet has going for him is not having any hair to go gray or to fall out or to pull out. And you would have to imagine
his goatee's going gray.
If he did have a head of hair, he'd be pulling it out now. And what do you think is going through his mind and Adam Foote's mind? And again, people can rag on the coach all they want. When the puck drops, it's on the players. Filip Hronek, this is his 5th game back. He's had time to work off the rust. Leon Draisaitl with a 150-foot backhand pass on the tape of Zach Hyman. Where was Hronek? You can't get walked like that.
No.
This isn't a depth defender, and we all know that the issues are the depth of the Canucks defense. This is their solid number 2 guy, and I'll let the jokes stand for themselves there. Now, could they have used a save in that moment? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm not getting Thatcher Demco off the hook here. 3 forwards get caught deep, long pass, and Hyman able just to work his way to the front of the net. And come on, like, that's not NHL defending by Filip Hronek. And Carson Soucy is the other guy out there, and he's scanning and he's looking, trying to pick up somebody on the back door. But as Hyman makes it pretty apparent that he's just going to put his head down and cut to the net, kind of thought even Soucy might be able to get across there and cut him off, but was not to be, and that just sort of set the tone. And then, the Canucks didn't do an awful lot. Brock had that one chance that Pickard made his best save of the night. Bluger with the shot, and Brock there to the rebound. Looked like he had enough room to tuck it in. Didn't happen. Vinny Desharnais started a steady trek. There were like Vinny Desharnais footprints to the penalty box in Edmonton.
That's not a good visit back to
3 minors
Edmonton
for the big man, and 2 of them result in Oiler power play goals. Draisaitl, they were just zipping it around. Talk about inevitable. Like, he had the glorious chance. Puck works around to him. Hronek and Soucy out there again, kind of spinning themselves into the ground, and Draisaitl's not going to miss his 35th goal of the season. And before I could even jot down the scoring play, 20 seconds later, it was Adam Henrique with what turns out to be the game winner. It was the 3-0 goal and a 6-2 Oiler victory. So that one goes into the book as the game winner. And again, you come back to Thatcher Demco. I mean, Henrique is behind the goal. Like, he's behind the goal line when he tucks that in, and just bad looks all around for the Vancouver Canucks, but just an absolute kick in the junk there to make it 3-0.
8th game this season. Thatcher Demco has allowed 3 or more goals. That's 11 starts as well for Thatcher Demco. Now, we talk about wanting to get him a run, to get him feeling good about his game. He's not feeling good about his game, A, because he keeps pulling the puck out of his net, but B, it's because the guys in front of him can't score goals either. Like, it's very hard to try and get a feel for games or get into hockey games or try and get on a rhythm when you're almost always starting down 1-0 or very early in the game. Like, what is it, 10 time in 12 games the Canucks have given up their first goal?
Yep.
That's not good enough.
No, and makes it worse when you're down 3-0, as they have been as often as they have. Demco, though, just by the numbers, Thatcher Demco, 3 wins now in 12 starts. And, again, this is a team that needs to get some traction, and their supposed difference maker, the Oilers, they're willing to throw their backup at the Vancouver Canucks because that's the sorry state of the Vancouver Canucks now. Dustin Tokarski shut them out. They did beat Dennis Hildeby in Toronto, but here's and look, Pickard's given the Oilers serviceable backup goaltending. He's won 4 in a row now. But still, this idea that, the Oilers, they got bigger fish to fry. They can rest Stuart Skinner, and they can throw their backup at the Vancouver Canucks. And so 3-0 after 1. The shots were 13-11, but the score was what mattered the most. And, 3-0 after 1. And then Zach Hyman off just a brutal turnover by Teddy Bluger. Hyman from Philp at 158, and so the onslaught continued. And we're watching a replay here on our stream. Friedman and Soucy are the defenders. I don't know what Teddy Bluger's thinking. I guess he's trying to...
How many times has that happened this season?
Well, I thought of the game in Carolina where JT Miller tried that same
JT has done it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, it's happened a bunch. I just thought one jumped to mind. Yeah. Same side of the ice, out of the same corner. JT Miller tried to go to the interior, it got picked off, and here Bluger misses his man, and again, I'm not going to blame Thatcher Demco on that one. That's a bang-bang play. And then Vinny Desharnais back to the penalty box, and the Nuge with the snapshot off the right side. 12 minutes in, I wondered, Kevin Lankinen's been battling the flu. Were they going to get the hook out? Rick Tocchet generally doesn't get the hook out and change in-game. This became Demko's mess, and he was in there on the hook for all 6 of the goals. Kapanen was the guy that sealed it. I kind of tongue-in-cheek said on X, I guess that thwarts the comeback attempt. Look, they were done the water at 5-2 after 2 periods of play. I said to you, just for all the buildup in this hockey game, I kind of wanted to see the Canucks make it 5-3 late in the second period, just to give the Oilers something to think about. Could you imagine how glorious that could have been if the Canucks had erased this massive deficit? It's never going to happen. Although Elias Pettersson, in the sort of one moment that he had in this hockey game, rang one off the crossbar at 5-2. Besser with a big-time goal.
That's an $8 million shot.
From Miller and Suter off the rush, right shot off the left side, and picked his spot, and bam!
Yeah.
And he's now one behind Jake DeBrusk for the overall team lead. And, of course, he missed that time in the month of November. And we're going to have to leave a little bit of time here to go searching for Jake DeBrusk, who we know is streaky. We get that. Streaky player, he is streaking the wrong way in a big way. Jake DeBrusk now has gone 8 without a goal since the game in Montreal. That was a power play goal against the Habs. His only goal in the last 12 games, a power play goal. So no 5-on-5 goals for Jake DeBrusk, who's been playing top 6 minutes, either with Miller or Pettersson, throughout. And this is the guy that was brought in to score. And again, it'll go the other way and he'll get on a run. But they need some offense. This is what he was brought in to do, to score. And I know it's not just him. That, we kind of rattle off these numbers on almost every show. Besser snapped a 4-game skid without a goal, so he had 1 in 10 coming in. DeBrusk is now 8 without. JT Miller also hasn't scored since the Montreal game, so that's 8 without for him. Elias Pettersson, he scored the other night against Buffalo, but his only point in 4 games, and his only goal since before Christmas, the 2 that he had against San Jose, and then he missed a little bit of time. But for Pettersson, that's now 4 points in his last 13 games, and so on and on and on it goes here. They can't score. They're giving up too much. Can't get saves. And it's just a caustic combination. No matter how you come at it, the Vancouver Canucks are 20-17-10, so 47 games played now. And those regulation losses before, they were finding ways to get games into overtime at the very least and pick up single points, but that hasn't happened for a while now. they're finding ways to lose outright and not get anything. So 20, 17, and 10, they're stuck on 50 points. And as this game came to an end, there was a game to the south of them in Calgary. The Flames beat Buffalo by a score of 5-2. Utah was a 4-0 winner in Minnesota. And so the Vancouver Canucks are watching these teams either pull away from them or make up ground on the other side here. Calgary's now 3 in front of the Canucks with a game in hand. And Utah's just a single point back. St. Louis lost tonight, but St. Louis is just a single point back as well. So, there's part of me that thinks, like, why you even look at the standings until this team, shows that it can be a serious outfit and start to string some periods together, and then from there some games together. But the mountain's just getting steeper here as they go along.
Well, that's it, right? And I think that's why the fan base is so frustrated. That's why, it's great for us. We get some great content from our listeners and things like that. So I kind of want to get to some of our super chats. And again, thank you so much for contributing with them. Obviously supporting the BC Mental Health Association. Ayush says, second and Höglander, maybe a third to get Lawton. First and Desharnais to Pens for Griezlick. Put Lawton in between Miller and Besser. It's a pipe dream. Don't think that one's going to happen. Canucks fan 94. At this point, I'm all in for a complete retool. Not just the defense, but the entire team in general, with my only untouchables being Pettersson, Hughes, and Demko. I'll get back to that one in just a second. And Hutcho says, fans and media blame the refs for 5 days, get 4 power plays, assuming he's talking about the Edmonton Oilers there. The interesting one here is what Canucks fan 94 said about the retool and untouchables. Here's my thing about that. The three guys that he mentions there, Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and Thatcher Demco. Quinn Hughes is the only untouchable. Yeah. There are very few teams in the NHL that have players that are quote-unquote untouchables. Quinn Hughes is one of them. Those other 2 guys are not. Nathan McKinnon, one of them. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, those are the types of players. If you're the Vancouver Canucks and you're looking at everything, you're open for business in any possible avenue. And if it's going to start with JT Miller, we don't know yet. We obviously think and hear that that's what it's going to be, but there's no untouchables unless your name is Quinn Hughes on this roster. No, I'm with you. And with every passing game here, Thatcher Demco, I do wonder sort of where he falls in all of this. And yes, I understand all that he's been through. I get all of that. But just because he was a Vezina finalist doesn't mean that it's a green light that he gets back there ever. And you keep waiting for some signs. And like in his recent starts, like I go back to the game in Carolina, and it was such a low event game. There weren't that many shots, but he held them in there and gave them a chance. Other than that, it hasn't looked good. Los Angeles lit him up. Here, the Edmonton Oilers lit him up. The Sabres game the other night, even he took the ownership and said, like, I had to make some saves there in the third. That didn't happen, and so I couldn't put him on a list of untouchables. I'm so with you, Quinn Hughes. And please hear me, because this is not a knock on Quinn Hughes in any way, shape, or form. But let's stop the Quinn Hughes for Hart Trophy in Vancouver this season. Leon Draisaitl has 35 goals. It's a lot.
Connor McDavid out of the lineup. They didn't need Connor McDavid. Draisaitl was in on half of their goals. Quinn Hughes has had an incredible season. This team is a tire fire. And as he tries hard every night, he's got a 3-minute and 8 shift in the third period in a complete, just garbage time. And Quinn Hughes is still taking 3-minute shifts because they had a couple of guys in the penalty box. They need him to play, and he's going to, when they tap him on the shoulder, he's going to go. Again, this doesn't diminish anything that Quinn Hughes has done or will do for the Vancouver Canucks, but there is some separation here. And yes, we can ask the question, where would the Canucks be without him? That doesn't make him a hard. There's still almost half a season to go. And Leon Draisaitl is just showing no sign of slowing down. And Connor Hellebuyck in Winnipeg. And I think Quinn sort of hit a wall. There's only so much he can do for this hockey club, and if nobody else is going to do any of the heavy lifting, at some point the bottom is going to fall out, and it kind of feels like that's where we are right now.
Well, he's also doing it hurt.
And there's that.
Right? He's also doing it with an injury. So I totally agree with you. Leon Draisaitl, obviously a clear front runner. Kirill Kaprizov, before he got hurt, was obviously up there as well. But yes, we need to stop it a little bit. The Norris Trophy would be great for Quinn Hughes if it ends up happening for him. But yeah, the Hart Trophy, I don't think that's going to happen. The MVP of this team, absolutely. 100 million %. Casey Shuffle with another super chat. Hughes, Sherwood, Lankinen are the only players worth keeping. The rest of the team is 10 ply and needs to go. And James Hansen also, thank you very much for your contributions to our super chats. It's funny because everyone is mentioning the coach. And it's the coach, it's the coach, it's the coach. Coach just spoke. One of the quotes, Jeff, that he had here was, "You cannot give people freebies. You can't take penalties. It makes no sense to me right now. It really doesn't," which is exactly what me and you thought that he would say because he doesn't have any words to explain it.
And that's been a common refrain as well, as the lamenting the freebies. And this is the NHL.
Yep.
People were trying to give the Canucks all these passes about wait till they get their players back. And, are people changing their view on Tyler Myers and what he means to this club as he nears his 35th birthday? But, already there were massive issues around the depth of this defense, and the general manager looked me in the eye on Monday when I asked him, and he told me that this group could defend. That's one thing they could do. They could defend. He didn't want to talk about puck moving and transport and everything else, but he said, when they're dialed in, this group can defend. Well, sorry. Didn't defend in this hockey game, didn't defend against the Los Angeles Kings, didn't defend against the Winnipeg Jets, and most of those games were with Tyler Myers, who's now served 2 of his 3-game suspension along with Connor McDavid. But this defense wasn't good enough at the outset of the season, even with Quinn Hughes doing what he's done, and when Philip Hronek's been in there. And again, Hronek's been back for 5 games now. He's had enough time to work off some rust. And the first goal, quite frankly, inexcusable, and that sets the tone. And so, it's Soucy and Hronek. The way this defense is structured tonight, those are your second and third best defensemen behind Quinn Hughes, and that's what you're getting. Those are the kind of efforts and the chances that you're giving up. And so I hear Rick talking. I feel his frustration about the freebies because that's what it looks like. It's just way too easy. Way too easy against the Vancouver Canucks. It's way too easy to get to the front of the net, way too easy to stand in front of the net and just bang away at pucks until eventually they go in. And so he talked about penalties as well. Vinny Desharnais, certainly the guilty party there. He took 3 of the 4 Canucks penalties in this hockey game. We should mention as well, Kiefer Sherwood left early in the second period, didn't return. This is a team that isn't terribly robust up front. You're already without Dakota Joshua.
Yeah.
If Kiefer Sherwood, the NHL's hit leader, is out at all, and we don't know, but if he is, who's going to do that sort of grunt work up front for the Vancouver Canucks? It's a pretty short list. And so I know the coach said again, 5 or 6 guys look exhausted. I'm not sure why. Let's be honest, there's nowhere to hide. This is another dreadful game for Elias Pettersson. Yes, JT Miller is in on the Brock Besser goal, but I didn't really notice. He wasn't good either. Didn't notice JT Miller. Pia Suter picked up his first point of January. First point since Christmas. Still hasn't scored in forever, but he got an assist. Got the second assist on the Besser goal. Brock really was the best of the bunch, and that's not saying a whole lot, but he did have a goal and an assist, so he was in on both goals that the Vancouver Canucks scored, but this was one-sided, and the 3 stars reflect that. Let's get to the 3-star selection here on Rink Wide Vancouver. Keep your comments coming to the social channels and on the YouTube live chat. We'll dip in and grab more of your contributions as we go. But a clean sweep for the Edmonton Oilers as far as the 3 stars were concerned. Zach Hyman with a couple of goals, had 6 shots on goal, so he was busy. He was active. He got the full face shield off and was able to get a better view of the net, and apparently he liked what he saw. The Nuge with a goal and an assist, 3 shots as well. And I feel bad. We're leaving old Leon to 3rd star in this hockey game. Ho-hum, just another 3 points for Leon Draisaitl. Up to 74 now on the season, and 35 of those are goals. So just an incredible year for him. Going to be interesting to see where he tops out. But no doubt about it, the 3 stars, all Oilers. Slightly different order in the building is selected by the Oilers broadcast. Hyman, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The 3 stars are a presentation of Greta Bar, which was hopping early. it was the site of our Canucks Army watch party.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was down there before the game. I swung by and said hello to lots of the people that were flocking in, and by all accounts, the crowd swelled to a pretty solid number. Unfortunately, it wasn't as much fun as the last time we had one when the Canucks shut out the Philadelphia Flyers back in October. But Greta was a terrific host as always. I was looking at that new street food menu, all the arcade games, the big screens, and there are a ton of them. It's a terrific place to watch any sporting event. They can't control the product on the television, but it is a great place. If you haven't checked it out, you should do so. Weekly drink specials as well. And we've got another watch party to tell you about. We'll do that a little bit later. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. That was the problem. They let the game begin. And then the Oilers went to town.
Oh, they watched.
Didn't let up. So, the Canucks had a watch party of their own, watching the Oilers skate circles around them. Just another, just add it to this long list of sort of disappointing, and they're not even shocking anymore, but the collection, when you look at them in totality, the Devils shutout loss and the Bruins and what the Islanders did to them, and last week the Kings and the Jets, and it's just this long and growing list of games the Canucks are never in. Show up, compete. Where's the professional pride? These guys individually are all better hockey players than they're showing, but collectively, this group ain't it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. James Hansen, he attached to one of his super chats, he's got a theory. This team started tanking the minute PD signed the contract. Miller didn't agree with the value and the fact Besser remains unsigned. He's made it known the room is divided into camps. I don't want to get into that right now. There's obviously the stuff that's happening in the room, and maybe we'll address some of the stuff that we've heard or what I've heard a little bit later on in the program. But still, Jeff, going back to this game and the game itself, and you mentioned the effort and the star players, Elias Pettersson never shot on net. Neither did JT Miller. Brock had 2. Connor Garland didn't, for everything that was made about Connor Garland. JT had 3. But yeah, Elias Pettersson, not a shot on net. And it's interesting because that's the player that, everyone wants to gravitate towards. Whether you're Team PD or Team JT or whatever it is, more often than not, Elias Pettersson's effort on some nights just isn't there.
They went out, they brought in Jake DeBrusk expressly to play with this
him.
guy, to give him a winger, a goal-scoring winger. And again, DeBrusk leads the team. He's got 17. He didn't get there by accident. He has scored. It's just been, the 9 games off the top, and then he went nuts in the middle of November. And then December got a little quiet, and now since Christmas has been ridiculously silent. It has to turn back in his favor, but he only had 2 shots in this hockey game and didn't look particularly dangerous. And yet, PD having this legitimate goal-scoring winger, we're past the midway mark of the season. There hasn't been this undeniable chemistry between those two guys. And in fact, remember, DeBrusk started the season there, and a couple of games in was already moved off that line, and they were moving him around and trying to figure it all out. It's just, I keep thinking, at some point, it's got to be rock bottom, and then it's going to rebound, and that we're going to see some sort of effort here. And the clock is now ticking. We're into the final week of January, and without a doubt, that is the clear demarcation point from a year ago when it all started to slip away, and Elias Pettersson just has not been the same player. He was one of the NHL stars of the month for January. He scored 14 goals last January.
Yeah.
12 months ago. He scored 14 goals in the month of January, and here he is, just nothing. Not even a shot on goal in this hockey game.
And look, we talk about Elias Pettersson a lot on this show. He's a polarizing player to talk about because of what he brings to this team, what he can, and how much money he's getting paid. But I'm not going to let everyone else off the hook here. As a team, they've scored more than 3 goals only once this month against Montreal, or once in their last 8 games.
Yeah.
And that was against the Montreal Canadiens, right? You scored 3 against Toronto, and you win that game, and that's basically it. Other than that, it hasn't been good from this team, from the rest of them, the supporting cast, and the lack thereof. And it's frustrating. That's why the head coach, is out here saying, was quoted again saying that, there's 5 or 6 guys that lacked energy. But how many nights after losses is Rick talking about guys not having it, or guys being off their game? It's almost every night where they lose a hockey game, he's saying that a couple of guys just don't have it.
Right. And I just want to make this clear to people that maybe don't fully grasp the way this works in the National Hockey League. The Canucks played on Tuesday. They practiced on Wednesday for 30 minutes. Weren't on the ice for 90 minutes. Wasn't a bag skate. They practiced. They worked up a quick sweat before they got on their plane and flew to Edmonton. They arrived, late afternoon. Drive from the airport in Edmonton takes about 3 days, but that's beside the point. But they were in their hotel around the dinner hour.
Yep.
Rest up, get morning skate this morning, and away they go. This idea that they're tired and fatigued.
From what?
They've got 6 games left before a 2-week break. Leave it on the table. Leave it on the ice. Yeah, the guys that go to the Four Nations, they're not getting quite the same break, but they start out of the Four Nations break with back-to-backs. In fact, 2 sets of back-to-backs. They start in Vegas and Utah, and then a couple of days off, and then L.A. and Anaheim. So their first 4 games are 2 blocks of back-to-backs. If fatigue is an issue, what's going to happen there? They haven't been a very good team on the back end of back-to-backs, although they were able to beat the Toronto Maple Leafs on the Saturday after the travel trouble getting from Carolina. But, we're talking about Elias Pettersson. We should mention as well, for all the talk of what might happen in this hockey game, really the only sparks were in the second period, loose puck at the side of the net. Connor Garland, of all people, sort of jams at it. That draws a crowd. Corey Perry originally grabs Elias Pettersson, but then he says, hey, there's Quinn Hughes. I'm going to kind of hog-tie Quinn Hughes, headlock him, and throw him to the ice. And Elias Pettersson just stands there. That's got to be incredibly frustrating. The other night, when McDavid cross-checked Garland, Pettersson was on the ice. There were others. I don't want to single him out, but you're just looking for something that's going to. And I know that the physical side of this game isn't his forte, but there are times.
Well, there is. If he's throwing big hits.
Rick Tocchet talks about being uncomfortable at times. There are times you have to step out of your comfort zone, and there's something about being a good teammate as well. And it's hard to watch. And I don't want to make too much of it, but you see Teddy Bluger throw a punch at Corey Perry. Mark Friedman bumps Corey Perry and gets him misconduct in the third period. The refs weren't having any of that. The one thing that we didn't touch on, that one of the super chats, it is worth noting that the power plays were 4-0. And they didn't decide this hockey game, but I can't sit here and tell you that I'm shocked that was sort of the power play distribution after the non-call the other night.
They were going to get one if Bluger didn't take himself off of it.
That is true.
So they were going to get one. But you're right. I think if you bitch and whine enough in this league, you're definitely going to get something. And especially, when it comes to Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, I think referees look at things a little bit differently. Look, I think that there's a leadership problem in this room. I really do. I think you can tell on the ice the way this team plays in some efforts. And it's more so if guys really want to get up and play, they will. And if guys aren't really going to play, then they're just not. And that's what it looks like to me, to be completely honest. And it sucks because there's a lot of people in this chat. There's a lot of people around that watch this team, that pay really hard-earned money to go and watch these games. And on some nights at home, what is it? Still 8 wins at home on home ice?
It is.
The 8 wins on home ice. And the efforts in some of those games have been absolutely atrocious. So there's a lot that this team has to look into. We've talked about soul searching. We've talked about all that. A trade right now, let me be clear, isn't going to solve everything. It may mask one little problem that they have, but this team as a whole, Jeff, has got so many issues. They're now starting all to show themselves.
So we're having trouble keeping up with the super chats. This is
a
good problem to have.
Yeah,
that they are coming in hot and heavy here. This one from Canucks Fan 94. What makes the season so frustrating is that we know the talent we have on this team. We know what they're capable of, and they just can't, for one reason or other, live up to it. Is it still this interpersonal battle between Pettersson and Miller that is preventing those guys from elevating? And is it having a trickle-down effect? I think it is now. You've heard players talk about it seeping into the locker room. But I'm so with Irf that as every day goes by, the memory of last year was fun, and we'll always have the memory. Last year was the outlier. Last year, again, everything came together, perfect storm. career years for so many guys. And even at that, it got them to Game 7 of the second round is all it got them. So, every year's new. Every year's a different season. And so many guys are underachieving, underperforming. And it's getting hard to watch on a nightly basis. The Blazers fan 22, they called up D-Man Pettersson and they sat him.
Yeah,
yes,
I saw that.
That's a fact. I mean, I can't tell you you're wrong. I'm not surprised.
Neither am I.
Like, he didn't practice yesterday. He's having a nice season. He's the Abbotsford Canucks representative for the AHL All-Star Game. He's going to Palm Springs. I'd take a trip to Palm Springs in early February. I wouldn't mind going down if Mr. Rink Wide wants to cover. I'll cover the AHL All-Star Game, All-Star Weekend. Look, he's getting an NHL paycheck. Unfortunately, he was on hand to have to watch this. But second time this year that he's been called up. This is all a positive development. It's tracking for him on the road against a motivated Oilers team that had lost 2 in a row with the smoke around this game. You can't shelter a young guy like that on the road in his NHL debut. I didn't for a second expect that Elias Pettersson was going to get into this hockey game. Now, in hindsight, midway through the first period, maybe they call him down from the press box, suit him up, and swap him out for the other Elias Pettersson. Well, not sure anybody would have really noticed the difference, but this is a conundrum that I asked on social, and I'll put to you now. So he's up from Abbotsford. He's on the roster. I believe Friday is a team day off. So, again, there won't be a full practice with the NHL group. They'll likely have a morning skate on Saturday. Do you throw the kid into the deep end against Alex Ovechkin and the best team, in the National Hockey League and one of the highest scoring teams in the National Hockey League, the Washington Capitals, who are absolutely rolling? Is that the team and the opponent to ask a 20-year-old to step in to the National Hockey League?
Well, the Canucks have just proven that it doesn't matter what position you are in the league. You can't beat a bad team, so why not? I honestly would say why not? You can protect him at home a little bit with the change and things like that. If he's up, he's up for a reason. I think that there's a point of rewarding a guy and giving him an NHL contract or an NHL paycheck, but then if he really deserves to be up, he could play potentially. If there was a catastrophic injury or something bad happened, he would have to go. So they do believe that he could go. Let me come back at you with the question. Why was Linus Karlsson called up by the Vancouver Canucks, and how did he get in over Niels Höglander? We haven't even started on that yet.
Right. Let me just stick on DPD for a sec here. If Vincent Desharnais is going to take 3 penalties and cost you 2 goals, I know that's a lefty-righty thing, and so you look on the left side, you got Hughes, you got Soucy, you got Forbert. Rick Tocchet likes his lefty-righties. You're asking somebody to slide over if you add another left-handed defenseman. Keep in mind that Tyler Myers will be back for the start of the road trip in St. Louis on Monday, so if it's going to happen, this would sort of feel like a good opportunity to get a young kid and plug him in. Mark Friedman gives you what he can, but there's a reason that he's been in the minors most of the season and really most of his career. Could you sit him down for a game? Absolutely you could. Could you take Vincent Desharnais out? They've done it before. Philip Hronek's going to stay in, but man, he's got to play better, and they're all going to have to play a whole lot better, or the Caps are going to do this to them on Saturday. But I do wonder. I wonder if they do have a decision to make here about Elias Pettersson, the defenseman, and get him a look. There'll be time later in the season as well. It doesn't have to happen for him here, but coming off this performance, there's not a single defenseman in the lineup outside of Quinn Hughes, I suppose, that could look himself in the mirror and think, I was anywhere close to good enough in this hockey game. So the DPD situation is something to watch. And I say this with all due respect to Linus Karlsson, who has worked hard to make his NHL dreams come true. He's a really good AHL player. I feel like I've seen enough of him. And it's even in limited appearances, but he got into playoff games last year. He had a shot in the first period from the slot. Didn't really threaten. You look at his line on the night, under 10 minutes of ice time, the 1 shot on goal. Didn't notice a lot of guys. He wasn't the worst of the bunch by any means, but you have Atu Ratu, who was the AHL player of the week last. You want to reward guys down on the farm. This guy was the AHL player of the week. Why wouldn't you give him the nod? So Yeah, I mean, every time Linus Karlsson gets into an NHL lineup, I'm underwhelmed, and I'm like, what do you do around here? And I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is as to why he got the call this time around. Again, he's having a decent season in Abbotsford. He's been hurt for some of it, but it just feels like there's a pretty clear line between what he's able to do and produce in the minors as opposed to what you can expect from him when he gets the nod here in the NHL.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I would have taken Höglander out for Linus Karlsson. I agree with you. No disrespect to him, but Höglander did show a few games ago that he did have a goal, and there was that. We have Brock Besser and Rick Tocchet. Which one would you like?
I want to hear the coach
first. Okay, let's definitely hear. Let's hear from Rick Tocchet after this one.
I had Brock and Teddy out here, and really seemed dispirited and disheartened after this game.
Yeah, just we give them penalties right off the start. We gave them a couple of free goals, and then you're trying to chase the game. You can't do that against this team or any team. We've been doing that lately. I'm sure they are dispirited, but we cannot take. You can't give teams freebies, and we're giving them.
Is that the most disheartening thing? The self-inflicted wounds?
Yeah, but it's the same. You can't just throw pucks in the slot. And you can't take stupid penalties. It's no. I thought some guys were trying tonight, but we just didn't have enough.
Kiefer Sherwood not returning to the lineup. Do you have any update on him?
No, I haven't talked to the trainer.
Can you break down that game and just say, look, we played really well in the second half, that second period, and we got to kind of keep that going, somehow keep that momentum?
Well, you try for some of the positives, but we got to correct some stuff. It's on myself to correct this. We got, from the 8 ball, you just cannot give people freebies, and you got to just, you can't take penalties. It makes no sense to me right now. It really doesn't.
How do you get the guys to believe right now that there's still plenty of runway left?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of games left, but we need some people that like to, obviously we want to have some fun, and I know guys are not having fun right now because we're losing. But you gotta, it's a responsibility in every individual to bring something, and I think we're not getting enough of that right now. So it's my job to get some of these guys to bring it.
Down 3 goals, and then getting a power play, and then Teddy took you off the power play by going after.
I mean, it's just all that stuff. I know. I think he was, I guess Perry had a headlock and Hughes and put him on the ice. So I think that's why. So, I mean, I can't blame him, I guess, for that.
48 hours till the next one. How do you want to see the group reset?
Well, this business, you have to bring energy. I mean, I felt some guys did not have energy tonight for whatever reason. They looked exhausted, 5 or 6 guys. I'm not sure why. But we're going to have to get some rest here, and we got a big game against Washington. That's a must-win type of game. You always got to kind of have in your mind that I'm going to bring a must-win attitude.
I hear it, and they're just words at this point, because the bounce back from the Winnipeg game was Los Angeles. The bounce back from the Buffalo loss was this one tonight.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what else he's going to say. I don't know what I want him or need him to say. They play again in 48 hours against the best team in the National Hockey League that is just steamrolling through opponents. Now, the Canucks played the Caps straight up in Washington, lost in overtime. Pierre-Luc Dubois. We all know the storylines there. We'll see if there's any carryover. Connor Garland was sort of the marked man in Edmonton, although he survived. He could handle the booing, and it really wasn't that big a deal. And I'm just glad that storyline is over. But, we'll see how people here in Vancouver react to Pierre-Luc Dubois taking a run at Quinn Hughes, but also scoring both goals for the Capitals in a 2-1 overtime victory. Yeah. But remember, the Canucks out in the big second period. And again, that's the frustration with this group is for 20 minutes at a time, they can be pretty good. And they weren't good for any 20-minute stretch in this hockey game. I guess the back half of the second period, and somebody kind of put that on the tee for Rick, and he wasn't having any of it. Wasn't in the mood for silver linings and parting gifts on a night like this one. So not good enough. Nowhere close to good enough. You know what is good enough, though, is our stat that stands out. Mm-hmm. Each and every broadcast, we bring you a stat that jumps out at us for whatever reason. And as you can see on the screen here, Vancouver has scored 13 goals in its last 8 games. Doing some math on my fingers here. 13 goals in 8 games. That sucks. That's what it is. It sucks. And as you can see, they have 2 wins in that time, 2-5-1. They have been outscored 26-13, so a 2-1 margin over the last 8 games. They're not scoring enough. They're giving up way too many, and as a result, you get 2 victories.
Yeah, I haven't scored more than 3 since that Montreal game that we alluded to earlier. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's not good enough. It's low event hockey, right? That's kind of exactly what they do.
That's the plan. This one wasn't terribly low event. There was a lot of events around the Canucks net tonight, unfortunately for them. But that's a little startling, that when you have a lineup that has JT Miller and Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser and Jake DeBrusk and Quinn Hughes, and you see Philip Hronek. I know we dumped on him early. And again, he's not going to get an excuse because he scored a goal. The first goal against was dreadful. But when you see him shoot the one-time bomb from the point, like, how does he only have 2 goals? I know he missed a long stretch, but I don't need him to be a 15-goal scorer from the point.
No, I don't either.
But a guy that shoots the puck that well, like, you'd think in the amount that he plays, he can push double digits, but I don't think he's going to get to double digits with 2 goals. This is his second goal of the season tonight. It made it 5-2. Late in that second period, and that was it for the Canucks scoring on the night. 6-2 was the final score. The Vancouver Canucks, who were once 10-2 on the road, by the way, they're now 12-7-4, so that's 12 wins and 11 losses with 4 in the OTL category. But, you know, the road record, we just talked about not scoring any goals. The road record was all that was propping this group up for the longest time because we spent so much time talking about how crappy they are on home ice. They have 2 wins in their last 11 on the road. They're 2-5-4 now. So they're not getting it done home or away. I think it was Harry Neal way back when that said, you know, his biggest problem as a coach was he couldn't find anywhere else to play, but home or away. And there is an element of truth to that it's just not happening for the Vancouver Canucks wherever they play. But, you know, it's not enough to say, okay, they're coming back home. No, they're coming back home against a team that doesn't care where it's playing either, because the Capitals have been terrific both at home and on the road, and they're up in Seattle late in the game in that one with a 2-0 lead. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but pretty good chance that the Caps are coming in, make it 3. Ovi just scored his 22nd of the season. You know, is that all we have to look forward to on Saturday? Is just Ovi watch? Like, should we be all in on Alex Ovechkin on Saturday night?
Well, this team, after a bad loss, hasn't shown you that it's able to bounce back and give you any effort. So, yeah, sure. Why not some Ovi watch for there? I mean, look, Ovi watch is great anyways because the Capitals only come here once and never know how long Alexander Ovechkin is going to play. And this is the season he's probably going to break Gretzky's record. So, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be something definitely great to see. Another super chat, Jeff, from GoldenEyeForever.com. Demco is the thread through this losing streak. What say you?
Well, we talked about it. I mean, he was in goal the other night for the Oilers victory, and they gave him a 3-0 lead to work with. Made some stops along the way, and Draisaitl was the only guy to beat him. But other than that, yeah, I mean, we've said this, that just too many goals are getting past him. And, you know, this whole idea, this was his 4th straight start for the first time this season, first time in the comeback. You know, there's an element of durability. The fact that he's able to start 4 in a row tells you that he's coming through these games. He's feeling healthy at the very least. The hope was, though, that by playing him, that they would be able to play him into form and out of his funk, and that's not happening. And I guess that's the concern for me now is I think you have to go back to Lankinen on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, 4 in a row for Demko. He'll play out on the road trip as well, but Lankinen was battling the flu, didn't play the other night, wasn't even dressed the other night, but he was the backup tonight, so he was good enough to go in there if they had made that decision. I think you're going to see Kevin Lankinen against the Washington, and he was good in Washington. Again, lost in overtime, but did his part there, held them in it, got a single point out of it. So I don't know when we see Thatcher Demco next, but you know, he's going to have to use this downtime to continue to work. And he talked after the game the other night against the Sabres how, you know, he's putting in the effort. And I guess that's the massive frustration in all of this is he's getting the reps, he's doing the work, and he's not seeing any sort of reward. And I'm not pinning all 6. I wouldn't even come close to pinning all 6 on him. But the first one and the third one just felt like those were moments where this team needed something good to happen. And as the last line of defense, he wasn't able to keep the puck out. And so at 3-0, this game was essentially over.
We talk so much about hockey being an entertainment, and, you know, we're an entertainment business. Jeff, it doesn't even look like fun for them anymore to even be out there and doing a game that they've absolutely loved for their entire life. Like, that's the worst part about it, is it's making your job look so difficult. And they for all of them will admit they have the best job in the world.
Yep.
But on most nights, the job in itself is not fun for these guys, and you can absolutely tell in their play. And I think that that's another frustrating part about this team is just Rick Tocchet kind of alluded to it a little bit. Like there's no joy in the game.
No,
there isn't.
And I had somebody point out, and I'm glad you brought that up because, again, Brock scores a goal scorer's goal. Like, it had to feel good to release the puck and score the way that he did, but it was also 5-0. And somebody's like, they're feeling for him because he can't celebrate in that moment. Like, there's nothing to celebrate. Yeah, you scored, but that sort of is where this team is. And again, how they can come out and perform the way they did in the first period against the Oilers on Saturday and not resemble that group, like, that should be the blueprint. That should be the positive reinforcement that we can do this, that it's there. If everybody plays the way they're supposed to and does their assignments and all those things, it can be done. It's just that it's so infrequent with this group. And that's why I come back to, like, they've all shown. I mean, Petey and JT have both been 100-point players. Brock was a 40-goal scorer. Quinn Hughes was the Norris winner last year. Like, I'm just amazed that it hasn't all come together on some night. But we went over this the other night. I'm not going to backtrack a ton, but to me, that is really one of the stories of this 2024-25 season is just the fact that their best players on any given night, like, Draisaitl has 3 points, Hyman has 3 points.
Yeah.
Like, where are those kind of nights? Like, the Canucks have players that have done that in the past, individually and as a group, and yet it just hasn't happened at all this season, and that part is so hard to figure out.
Yeah, it's the inconsistency, right? Because they had a great effort 2 days ago or a few nights ago against this Edmonton Oilers team with Connor McDavid, but again, there's just nothing there. We have Brock Besser. Do we want to hear from Brock?
Sure. Let's
hear from Brock. It's short. Let's hear from Brock Besser after this one.
Brock, how difficult it is in these games where you guys need the points and find yourselves down 3-0 pretty quickly off the bat.
Yeah, it's not easy. Just disconnected in the first period. We got to work for each other. We got to stick together. We got to stay positive, and that's really all we can do at this point. We have to be ready to start games, and this has happened too much lately. And we've talked a lot about it, and we gotta dig deep and figure it out.
Difficult to stay positive considering the way some things have gone recently.
Very, very difficult, but we have to. We're still only a few points out of a wild card spot. We gotta find a way to turn this around, and it just starts with having a good mindset, come to the rink every day.
Is it confusing to you guys as well? You have big games against Toronto, and then last Saturday Edmonton, then the last couple games where things don't go your way. Is it consistency? Is that the most perplexing part?
Yeah, you pretty much said it. We haven't been consistent, and you got to find ways to be consistent in this league in order to win hockey games, and we haven't, and we're struggling.
How do you reset for Saturday?
Yeah, I'm not sure where our schedule is tomorrow, but everyone needs to go home and take a look in the mirror, and like I said, we just got to dig deep, and it's all about mindset. It's all about working hard. It's about sticking together, being a good teammate, sticking up for each other, and then we'll go from there.
Interesting response there at the end about being a good teammate and sticking up for each other. I don't know. I'll let you read between the lines. I know I am. But
I'll find out.
But also just this idea that, they got to go home, look themselves in the mirror, and come back and be better. But, how many times this season have they looked in the mirror? The mirror must be getting worn out. And we're just not seeing any sort of difference in the play on the ice or ultimately the results here. So, yes, it's a rare occasion when Alex Ovechkin comes through here. Let's be honest, there aren't going to be many more in his career. I'm not saying this is the last one, but he's 39 years old. He's not going to play forever. It just kind of feels that way. And certainly once he gets the record, we'll see if that changes his view on how much more hockey he's going to play. But he's coming in here on Saturday. He's coming in off a goal, an empty netter, to seal the deal. 3-0 is the final now. The Washington Capitals, who are the top team in the National Hockey League, with that victory, they are rolling. First team to 70 points in the National Hockey League this season. They've won 33 of their 48 games. So they're going to be a handful It's just as simple as that. Steve in the chat says, last season I thought 50-50 chance to make the playoffs. Then they won the Pacific Division. This season I thought 50-50 chance to win the Pacific. And right now they're outside of a playoff spot. And that's why last year is last year. And I do think we all have to get over it.
I agree.
You know, in the first half of the season, it was a bit of a reference point. It's in the books now. It's just, that's why I enjoy the memories. The playoffs, it was a blast. The building was popping. The way it's going right now, and Brock said it as well. Like, they have to tell themselves, yeah, but after this game, they're further from the playoff bar than they were when they started.
Yeah.
And that's when you're sitting there, with a flat tire on the side of the highway, everybody else is just zipping past you in the passing lane. And that's kind of the analogy right now. Maybe it's the wheels have fallen completely off.
Yeah.
It's not just one flat tire for this Vancouver Canucks hockey club. But, again, we're talking here about, do you plug a rookie defenseman in? They don't have many options. Like, Tyler Meyer is still suspended, so they're going to have to get by without Big 57 on Saturday. Nils Höglander can come back in. That's fine. Maybe they call somebody else up from the farm. Essentially, you're just moving the deck chairs around. It falls at the feet of your best players and your leaders, and until something gives there, whether it's a trade, whether it's one of them rising up and putting this team on his back, the cold hard truth is that nothing's going to change. Like, it's just going to be more of the same. And I'm kind of fear what's going to happen on Saturday, but maybe I'm getting conditioned to these one-sided hockey games because we've certainly seen enough of them over the last week to 10 days.
No, absolutely. Look, if there's no effort, I don't expect this team to win this game based on recency bias and what we've seen from this hockey club. But as Brock said, as we said, good luck in the mirror. There's a lot of searching that needs to happen. There's a lot from within. There's a lot of players that individually need to be better, and as a team, they need to be better, and there needs to be leadership, whether that's leadership from the top at a managerial level down to Rick Tocchet, to whatever message he gives to the players before the game and in the intermissions, or a leadership from the captain or whoever else is a veteran in that room that decides to go and speak and try and get these guys through whatever they're going through. So there's a lot of things that need to change, and the beauty of it is I'll get one day off, and then they're right back at it.
Just to bring it back to PD for a sec here, and it was the Botchford Project the other night, and we had a terrific night. I'm looking forward to working with the three finalists on their finished products or their stories. It'll get posted on the Canucks website during the Four Nations break. Arash went through the Botchford Project a few years ago. I think the COVID year when there was nobody in the stands, if I recall correctly. But he tweets out that Elias Pettersson in his last 82 games, including last spring's playoffs, 18 goals, 38 assists, -2, 56-point player over his last 82 games. And, that's not a surprise, right? Like, we've all watched it, but you just see the number. It's such a stark, bleak total for a guy that's making $11.6 million.
That's just it, right? And with big money comes big responsibility. You're one of the top 5 highest paid guys in the league. It's time you start acting like it. It's time you start showing like you care, on more nights often than not. And I think that, it's tough. And, there's obviously stuff that's going on in the room and, the noise and everything like that. But at the end of it, you're still a professional. You still have to, hold yourself accountable night in and night out. You can't just go out there. I'm not talking about Elias Pettersson now, but you can't just go out there and mail it in every single night, which I've covered teams where guys have admitted they've mailed it in. You've covered teams that where we went through was a really bad stretch. Was it 2015, 16? Those few years where the teams were awful and guys near the end of the season, this is only the middle of the season, the guys near the end of the season admitted, yeah, I think that we're checked out.
Right, but the difference, those were bad teams.
Yeah, this is a good team.
Mostly bad hockey players.
Yeah.
This is a team that's built to win now. Like, wanted to build off last year and get further than last season's playoffs. And so, yeah, you're right. It feels the same, but the difference is this team has an $11.6 million player. This team's got an $8 million forward. It's got a Norris winning defenseman, like things that team couldn't even dream of back then. And yet it does feel like we've gone back in time almost a decade. So, I guess the really frustrating part for me is that there's still 35 games to go. And you're right. Like, I thought there's never a guarantee in sports. I get that. But after a dark decade where there hadn't been playoff games played at Rogers Arena in Vancouver, I thought that we are now on to a run of seasons with this core group where the playoffs would be the baseline of an expectation, and then from there you take your chances. And so, for last year to be the outlier now, and I'm not going to write them off, but again, you have to face reality that they're going in the wrong direction, and other teams are starting to pull away from them, and other teams are, catching them from behind rather than the Canucks reeling in the teams that are above them. It's going to be hard work here for this team to make up the necessary ground if they continue to play and make the mistakes that they do. So 47 down, 35 still to come, and we will be there each and every step of the way on Rink Wide. That's what we do. And as we like to say, we work off the material that they provide us. And it was not pretty in Edmonton on this night. All right, we've got a few orders of business here.
Yeah.
Before we go, there was a Canucks Army watch party at Greta. And again, terrific turnout, unfortunately, for the way this game went. But there is another watch party to tell you about. And this time,
Oh, my.
it's going to be to watch Canada and the U.S. at Greta on Feb 15th. Got ticket giveaways, signed memorabilia, trivia, T-shirt tosses. It's all going on. It's your chance to party and watch the first best-on-best hockey at this level that we have seen in a while. Tickets are $10. If you want to upgrade the experience, we've got a VIP option, $40, which includes a Greta burger, a beverage, and an arcade game card. Doors are going to open 1 hour before the puck drop, so come on early, grab your spot, and soak up the atmosphere. You can get your ticket at nationgear.ca and join us for an unforgettable evening of Canada versus the United States of America. All right, this is the point of the program where we step away and we don't have to talk about the Canucks because we look around the National Hockey League at what else is going. What have you got your eye on for the Bet365 line of the night?
Oh, Friday night fun, Jeff. This portion of the show brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of the Garrison Price Canucks Conversation, and you and I here, yes, at Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 4-game parlay. Like the Flyers tomorrow. Like the Vegas Golden Knights. They're your two dogs. The Tampa Bay Lightning, probably going to smoke the Blackhawks. And the Winnipeg Jets. They're at home against the Utah Hockey Club. So some pretty good odds there. The two dogs, Vegas Golden Knights being without William Karlsson now. He's going to be with an extended period of time. They won tonight. The Philadelphia Flyers, I think they're pesky. There's one of those teams, the frisky Flyers.
They got to bounce back, though.
Yeah.
They got their lunch fed to them by the New York Rangers, who all of a sudden have figured things out. Do they need a power forward? I guess that's the question they're going to be asking themselves right now is do they want to...
You want to talk about that?
This team that had no chemistry and they wanted to give all their players away, all of a sudden now they don't want to touch the chemistry because...
And they got their goalie back.
Well, they do have their goalie back.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, with a big win over the Flyers, 7-0-3, they've gone 10 without a regulation loss. They've won back-to-back hockey games here, and all of a sudden they look like they have sorted some things out. Not above the playoff bar. They are the first team below the playoff bar in the East, just a point back of Columbus, and it's such a logjam. In fact, they're a point behind Tampa and Columbus. But sure, we can get into it. What do you make of the day's reporting of the Rangers and perhaps Carolina kicking some tires?
Carolina and the Rangers are definitely still teams. Rangers probably have backed off a little bit, obviously talking about JT Miller here. The Bruins are going to be an interesting team to watch. Still think the Devils. Now Markstrom's gone, so we're going to have to watch them a little bit here. The Islanders is always an interesting one. I think all three New York teams have some interest or did have interest in JT Miller at one point. The team that I think is going to be interesting to watch is the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
William Karlsson, JT would obviously have to waive his no trade clause to go there, and it's being reported that an Eastern Conference American team would be the one, but the Vegas Golden Knights would probably give you a pretty good chance to win a Stanley Cup. That's the one that I would be interested in because Will is going to be out for quite some time. With his injury, they're saying week to week, think it's going to be longer than that. So that's a team that I'd be interested to watch there on JT Miller. Brock Besser, but the talk is they've had 7 months to sign him. And, if the general manager of a team is saying we're still evaluating the player after the player has been here for how many seasons, Jeff? 8. I think 8. Yeah. 8 seasons. And I know the management hasn't been here that long. If they're still evaluating, the writing's on the wall there. And it's going to be an interesting conversation over
Management's
the
been
next
here
little
for
bit.
3 full years now.
They know exactly what they have.
They saw him score 40 last year, and that hasn't been enough to move.
And Brock wants an extension, probably 7 or 8 years, at least $8 million, probably, and definitely gets that on the open market.
On Miller, when you mentioned the Islanders, like I think this is where JT he holds the cards with the no movement clause. I just can't see him wanting to go to like he wants to win. I have to assume that he wants to win, and Carolina. Like I think it'd be a great fit in Carolina. Like they've fallen short. They've built good teams there, but have lacked some sort of playoff push. And we saw JT in the playoffs last year against the Oilers. I think he'd be a good fit there. I know that age and term left probably scares a team like Carolina that generally doesn't jump at those kinds of contracts, and maybe they're burned a little by, they went in for Gensel last year, although they didn't give up the farm to get Jake Gensel, but it didn't work for them then. So
Carolina also likes to have a lot of control, and they don't want to pay their guys boatloads of money.
Right.
So that's why there was a lot of talk about Carolina obviously being interested in Elias Pettersson too, because there's so much control in that contract. And I've always mentioned nobody is an untouchable on this roster, especially unless your name is Quinn Hughes.
Well, as Brock said, he wasn't sure of the calendar, the schedule. It was my sense that Friday was a planned day off. I think it still will be. At this point, I'm not sure that a day of practice is really going to solve what ails the Canucks. A day off might be better for these guys to go their separate ways, not spend a lot of time around each other, and then come back, get at it against the Washington Capitals on Saturday. Ovi's only visit here. So you've got that at the very much. You can watch Alex Ovechkin and see if he adds to his total as he tries to close in on Wayne Gretzky. A few other quick comments here just before we run. Razor Squad Gaming, Jeff, I think we're going to see a lot of gray hairs on you before the Canucks have another chance at hoisting one. Another chance at another chance at. Okay, I thought he meant like another Stanley Cup. They haven't won their first one yet, but another chance. And Still Boston on IG, if Quinn is still dealing with his hand issue, would the Canucks ask him to skip the Four Nations tournament?
It's a league event, and from what I know, if you're available and you're playing and you're on a roster, you're going.
Yeah.
Unless you're hurt and not playing, like well before the tournament, you're not going. Quinn Hughes is going to play for USA. Like, I think all those USA boys, they're going to play together.
A chance to play with his brother? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, and he's got lots of friends. I mean, the Kachucks obviously are buddies of his, and so I hear you. Trust me, I hear you when you say it, and let's see where the Canucks are in 2 weeks' time when the break comes. But no, I mean, best on best for this generation that hasn't had this opportunity. Yeah. And I get it. We see the thing on his hand all the time, still playing with it, but generally it's not stopping him from doing Quinn Hughes things, although last couple of games haven't been his best, and they certainly have not been the best for the Vancouver Canucks. 6-2, the Oilers throttle the Canucks. Brock Besser, his 16th of the year. Philip Hronek gets his 2nd of the season. The Canucks are 20-17-10, and they're kind of spinning their wheels here with just 2 wins in their last 8 hockey games. All right, we've said it before, but we'll say it one last time here. If you don't already, follow us, our social channels. You can see them all on screen if you're watching on YouTube. And, of course, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Rate and review. Hammer the 5 stars. Let people know we do this after every Canucks game. And we certainly appreciate your support. Again, we wish it was better material to work with, but that's out of our control and out of yours as well. But you can just tell the passion in this marketplace. People want the Vancouver Canucks to win hockey games. They're just not holding up their end of the bargain here again tonight. All right, Jacob was down at the Canucks watch party. By all accounts, it was a good crowd. Got a little angry as the score got away from the Vancouver Canucks, but don't let that dissuade you. The next time that we do a watch party, it's a lot of fun. It's great to get together with like-minded Canuck fans, and great place, obviously, Greta, to watch those games. So thanks to Jacob, hustling back from Greta to be here to help us put this together. You're in with me on Saturday?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see what Saturday brings. Ovi. That's what it's going to bring.
Yeah, that's
The
what it's gonna
Washington
bring.
Capitals, best team in the National Hockey League. That's what's up next for the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll see how that one goes. But for Irf, this is Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out another edition of Rink Wide Vancouver.